Now we're going to jump into the monitor tab section. Just, so you know that this is not monitors as in, stage monitors or anything like that. This is the monitoring control for the console. So let's head back over to the Surface and we'll show you all about that. This is another one where we do have a screen access button here, where if we just go ahead and press this button once, we are presented with the monitor screen, okay? Let me go back to the default view. If we want to use the drop down, or like particularly if we're doing any of this, so like say on the standalone software, this is how we would go ahead and access that. With the drop down here, we have the monitors tab here. We go ahead and select that, and again, we're presented with the screen. Okay, so on the left side here, you're seeing all of the inputs and output destinations, excuse me, and how to be able to patch that and where they are currently patched. If you remember earlier when we were talking about the talk outputs, how I said I had that patched into a couple different locations. So if I hit the drop down, you'll see that it's patched out of the 152 box that's on the stage. It's coming out of output 3 and output 4. All right. If we don't have anything assigned, or even if we want to change the assignment, we can go ahead and click on one of the source buttons, and what that's going to do is going to bring up the patching screen, bringing it right to where we need to. So this way we can go ahead and select where we're going to, patch in, either the external talk in or the different outputs for the monitor path. So let's flip back over to the monitor tab. Okay, as you see here, everything is labeled. It's very straightforward and to the point. Very easy to go ahead and get things patched in and out. Typically, the standard setup is going to be anything and everything that you're going to need as far as the patching. Okay, so let's move over to the middle section here. Okay, just like we have on the hardware, we have it here on the screen. Okay, the first level here is we can specifically set the PFL levels, we have the AFL levels, and the talkback level. So very simple there. We can go ahead and turn the actual knobs on the console, and you'll see that the software is showing up as well. All right. And next thing below that, we have our solo in place. Okay, we have the hardware button here. It's got a nice little flip down tab. All right, and if we just lift that up, we go ahead and press that in, the console's in solo in place, and we'll disable that. If we want to select it here, the minute we click on this, our virtual plastic knob cover is going to pop up on the screen and say, hey, do you want to activate the solo in place? And go ahead and click yes. Same thing with the deactivating. We click it, we're going to be presented with a pop-up if we actually want to do that. Okay, next is surround to monitors. That won't work right now because we're not set up in surround sound. So if we wanted to go ahead and get the local monitoring and hear the different surround options, we can go ahead and click that here. Okay, below that now we have monitor A and monitor B delays. All right, if you wanted to have, say, a pair of speakers here at front of house, it may be in a situation where you're not directly in the sweet spot between the left and right PA, maybe if you're offset to the left or to the right with your front of house, and I even had a show one time on tour with Machine Head where I was mixing in a completely different room and I couldn't even hear the main PA. So I plugged in some speakers and I had my own little PA there. All right, but in a situation where, here I am out at front of house, we have our main PA there, we're obviously far back, so we would want to probably add some delay so that way our monitor speakers are time aligned to our main PA, because obviously we're going to be hearing the monitors, which is closer to us than our main PA. So we can go ahead and add that delay time in there. We could also turn it on and off, if we need to. Same thing for the monitor B monitor section. Okay, below that next, again, it's software representation of being able to select the PFL or the add buttons for the solo, or if we had some solos assigned, we can go ahead and clear it. So again, I can go ahead and press these buttons down here and they're going to react the same. and you see it's taking place on the screen. For source A and B, for selecting, what we're going to be monitoring on those. Again, for me right now, I'm just going to be monitoring the stereo bus. We can go ahead and say, have it the monitor bus over here, external, or we could send talk as well to that, and make sure that our speakers are really, really working. Okay, we can go ahead and test that actually. So we'll turn the oscillator on, we'll hit talk, and I hear a little bit of signal coming out of my little monitor here to the left. So I know that is in fact working. Okay, next below that, we have output A and output B. We got 4 buttons here. Okay, we have a mono button, we have a phase invert, and we have left and right swapping. So for example, if we're just say listening to signal on the left side, like we have a guitar panned on the left side, if we want to hear, anything that's going to the left, but flip it over to the right side, we would go ahead and flip that. Or if we just want to turn them around and, we find out that, say, our local monitors were patched in backwards, it's like, okay, if we don't want to get up and go behind the desk, maybe because the console is next to the barricade or you're next to a wall and you can't really get behind there, very easy to swap the cables around. You can just go ahead and just press those in and it'll flip them around. If you want to hear a mono sum of that, you can go ahead and engage the mono button. Back to the cables being patched wrong. Say one of those cables is out of phase and you kind of hear it, you can go ahead and flip the phase and kind of bring it all back into phase. So next, as you see here, there's 2 graphic EQs. Okay, one new addition is Midas added 2 graphic EQs to be able to EQ those 2 monitor outputs. Okay, it's a great addition. It's not going to use any additional resources, with your onboard graphic EQs that you have assigned. So these are dedicated specifically for that. Great addition. So thank you, Midas, for popping that in there. So let's go ahead and select that. Right now you'll see it is assigned to monitor EQ A. I just have a little EQ that was already in on my file when I was listening back to some stuff. I had to make some EQ adjustments. Again, very similar to the graphic EQs, we have the assignable controls that can control the different parameters. If we want to go ahead and pop down to monitor EQ B, it's simply by pressing the arrow down, and now we have that one. Okay, very straightforward and to the point. So we'll go ahead and close that guy out and continue on. Up here we have monitor meters here. So let me go ahead and flip over and just get some signal flowing into the console real quick. So I got some signal there now. So let's head back over to the monitor screen. We'll see that monitor A, because I have it selected to the stereo bus, it's showing level there. If I go ahead and assign the stereo source on B to the stereo, you'll see, boom, that popped up there. So that way we're able to view everything that's on the console. The other 2 would be for the surround. We would have the center and then the LFE. That's what those level meters would be for. Let me just go ahead and kill the playback here, and we'll pop back over to the monitor tab. Okay, below that now, the talk mic. We can assign it to internal or external. Internal is just what it says. If you want to talk into the console, like if you have a microphone and I have one, underneath the desk that I have saved here, I can just go ahead and bring that in and actually talk into physical inputs on the console. If I want to talk and leave the desk, how I have it set up, as you can see over here on the external talk, so I could talk to the in-ears and then also have the external talk for a local monitoring system. So I would go ahead and select the external talk, and now I'm able to talk down that line and people can hopefully hear me. Not on the screen though, but if we look at the actual talk section here, we have the level of the microphone. Okay, so that's just gonna do the overall level. Next to that, there's a little limiter. Some guys need a little bit of compression and limiting, if they're yelling, you can kind of limit them there. I'm just joking, of course. Next is going to be the microphone gain. So, say for example, like I have a dynamic mic in there, so I don't need a lot of gain. If I was using a condenser, I might need a little bit more or less, whatever. You have the option to adjust that. Again, with the back to what we were just talking about with the talk groups, okay, we have our presets. Again, we have a configuration button, so we can go ahead and select that. It's gonna bring us right to the talk group page, and we can go ahead and configure that. So let's go ahead and head back, and you could actually do that by clicking on this little button up there, that little arrow, and it'll bring it back to the last page that we were in. Okay, on top there, we have all inputs, aux, and matrices. All right, these are already set up ahead of time, so we can go ahead and turn on the talk or the oscillator. So let's go ahead and turn on the oscillator. Now, if we go ahead and press and hold the all button, every channel now is getting the signal, and that level is kind of screaming. So let me just go ahead and bring that down a little bit. And let me give you the overview of the console. As you see there, anything that has a fader up is getting level on the talk. So let's go back to monitors. All right, we go ahead and let's do all the input channels. Again, so let's go back over to the overview page, and now we see signals coming in. Some of them is not coming in because there's gates, but if we kind of kick the signal, you'll see some of the, the levels are coming online. All right. Same thing with the auxes. We go ahead, we can see level going to all the auxes and the groups, whatever, and then we have all of our matrices. And there we go. So we see the signal there. All right, we only just see the 4 channels because those faders are the only ones that are up. All right, very simple like that. Very easy to set up the talks and the routing there. Now below that, we have the signal generator. That was how I assigned the oscillator because I wanted to send the pink noise. So right here, we have the 2 buttons, again, internally or externally, where we want to send the signal. So we were just using the internal, okay. Level knob, okay, for that. So we can go ahead and make the changes there. If we disengage that, and now we have frequency, okay. So we could do the frequency sweeps that we discussed earlier. Or, if we're testing something, or maybe we're using the console in a lab. I know some of you guys like to do, a lot of testing on things. If you want to just get the 1K sine wave going, you can go ahead and press that. Boom, now you have a 1K sine wave. Again, very, very simple. So let me go ahead and leave that on pink for me. Solo modes, the last thing here. Right now I have this set up for normal. Okay, so when I solo something, it'll go, to both buses, and that's how it works in normal mode. If we had the console set up in dual mode, and if I had another engineer to my right, if we set that to dual mode, you'll see that right now, just the left side of the console is only going to have those solos. Now, the gentleman on my right side, if he wants to go ahead and solo anything, because we have PFL selected and the add button in. One thing that I have to point out is you're gonna have to select the B button here, all right? And not to get confused, this has nothing to do with area B. This B has to denote to saying, hey, I'm gonna go to monitor B. All right, the console defaults everything to the left side monitor. And one thing that I want to add, because just the other day, a friend of mine had contacted me. He had his headphones plugged into the headphone jack on the right side of the console and not the left side. And he had signal coming in and he was soloing and he wasn't hearing anything out of the headphones. So he thought maybe his headphone jack was broken or his headphones weren't working, but something was going on. And I easily told him, well, you have to use the left side headphone port if you want to go ahead and listen to anything that's coming out of monitor A. So if you want anything to go to monitor B, you would just have to press that in, and then you could use the headphones on the right side of the console. Not a big deal, just something that to keep you aware of, again, that the console's not broke. This is how it actually works. So just a heads up on that. So right now we have the vocal center selected and the area B buttons in. We would do that for this fader over here as well. So now if we hit solo, you see that it's showing up to the solo B. If we added the next vocal, that 2 is still going there. All right, so if we selected these other 2, you would see that it goes to monitor A. See, just like that. So we'll clear them out. So that's what the dual operator is. But because we're not in any of the surround or the broadcast modes, we're not going to cover that, because again, this is just covering the console in the front of house configuration with the stereo left and right. All right, so we'll just cycle back through that, and now we're back in normal mode. And that is the monitor section.